Okay, so the floor is yours, Eric. Do as you may.
Okay, so I'm going to hit share screen on mine, right?
Yep.
Okay. And share the PowerPoint. Oh, and I got then click share.
Here we go.
And then I'm going to make a
F5 will do that.
Full screen. Okay. And then I'm going to go, I'll put it in the slideshow in a minute. Okay. So you see it okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I had it reduced a little bit just in case I couldn't get to the window through the program. Okay, so good. I'm going to go over the QSL Bureau. The Bureau has a couple of its members, on our staff here online. My policy is I keep people anonymous, so the folks that are members of my staff, they can chime in. I just I keep you anonymous for your own protection, witness protection.
I'm one of them.
Okay, identify. You gotta. I can't tell.
Oh, I'm Jeff, NT1K.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff.
I'm the K sorter.
Yeah, Jeff. Okay, good.
John, K1VY.
Okay, John. Yeah, and John does the V and now the H letters. Okay, I saw you both in there, but I wanted to be careful about that.
Okay. No, I understand.
Okay. And the reason we do that is so the Bureau is all volunteers. It's totally volunteer. There's bureaus throughout the country for each of the call districts. And some of the bureaus will publish the names and contacts of the folks, and then those folks get all the queries and all. The way we do it here is all the queries come in through our mailbox and come to me, and then I distribute them out. And that allows some of the sorters not to get get hassled. I mean, not that they really get hassled, but I mean, at least it buffers that so that they're not constantly getting queries. So I'm going to go over a couple things. I'm going to go over sort of the basics of what a QSL is, and then I'll go over the Bureau. So for some of you are old hat at all of this, I mean, I'll go through it quickly, but there may be some points in there that'll help. But what I'm finding is there's many new hams, and when you get your license and you first get on the air and all of a sudden you're getting QSL cards and you don't know what to do. And, I field lots of questions about just general QSLing. So that's sort of the purpose of this. So let me go to full screen. Okay, so I'll talk about what a QSL is. Old hat for many of you, and then I'll talk about the Bureau system. So QSL is just one of the Q symbols that we use, like QTH for your location or QRM, et cetera. And QSL is the term for requesting acknowledgement or acknowledgement receipt, whether you're asking to be acknowledged or you're saying you're acknowledging the information. So in this case, it's acknowledging the contact. So you make a contact with somebody, a DX station, and then they give you an acknowledgement. And usually it's a card. So you get this nice little postcard. It's got a lot of information about the contact, and it becomes your record of that. And they're really great to collect. I mean, they're very interesting pictures of the station or the location where the ham is, or just some other, neat artwork, et cetera. And they're really fun to collect. But the acknowledgement can also be electronic. It can be an email, it can be over one of the web applications I'll talk about. And of course, they can just be acknowledging over the air, but you're not going to do much with that after the conversation is over. So one of the reasons people collect the cards or the acknowledgements electronically is to use them for awards. And that's why it's really important to understand how to set up your cards and how to use them. And when it's used for awards, they're usually the paper cards that you send in to be validated, or it's the electronic validations in some of the electronic tools like on the web, Logbook of the World or EQSL. It's important that the certain pieces of information, I'll show you an example, are on the QSL. It's obviously the card of the card is being sent by a ham, and their call will be on it. Then your call will be on it because they made the contact with you. The date, the time, the frequency, mode, RST, which is the signal report. So those are basic about the contact. But other information that's really important to put on there for us in the United States is putting on the, the state and the county. And for everybody, you want to put the country, the grid, the zone, and if it's a satellite, maybe the satellite number. Grid is these grid squares are divided. The whole world is divided in these grid squares, roughly the size of, say, about the size of Connecticut. And on 6 meters and up, people collect the grid squares. The zones, there's 2 types of the zones. CQ has 40 zones. We're in zone 5. And the ITU has a whole bunch more. I don't remember the number. But I don't know what zone we're here, but in St. Pierre Miquelon is zone 9, Newfoundland zone 9. So that's not used as often. So here's a sample card that this is the one I typically use for an example. So on the front side is a cool picture of all his aluminum up there, quite impressive, and his call sign and the logo of the Italian version of the AWRO.
It's not forwarding. It's still on the very first slide.
Oh, it is. You are screen sharing.
Try the up and down arrows, maybe.
Yeah, but you're not getting.
No.
So, right. So let me stop share. And do screen share again. Oh, maybe when I go in presentation mode, it became a new entity. Now you see what is a QSL?
Yep.
Huh, that's good to know. Okay.
So I think you're up to like slide 4.
Yeah. So okay. So here was the typical, you got the QSLs in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah, so I just picked on the PowerPoint there. And then, so when I went into screen share, it became a different entity on the sharing.
Oh.
So he's got his nice aluminum up there. And then the bottom is the meat of the card where the information is. So you can see in the card, his call sign is clear, his name, his address. If you were sending the card direct to him, you'd need that to mail a card to him. And then the QSO information, the contact information, call sign he worked, W1AW stroke KP4, the date, the time, frequency, signal report, and then the mode. Important on the date is that you specify its day, month, year, or maybe it's month, day, year if you're in the United States, but then you need to specify it. Because, for example, if it was today is 4/5/2022. Now, is that April 5th or is it May 4th? And that's very ambiguous. So it's very important to at least specify what that is. Maybe in front of, instead of the word day, put DD, instead of month, put MM, instead of year, maybe YY, but something so that you know what the time is. It gets important on some of these because some de-expeditions to a certain area are only valid for a certain period of time, where there's some question on whether or not they were actually on land making the contacts or whether they were still on the boat, and only certain dates are valid. So that's important. And that information gets logged when they do the award record keeping. The band or the frequency here is megahertz 28, but you could also just say band and say, 10, for 10 meters. And the signal report, if you're doing FT8 or FT4, one of those, you can put in them, the signal strength, like -02 or whatever. On mode, it's important to put the word two-way. That shows that it's actually a two-way contact. You could use this same card for a shortwave listening report. And then what I do is I cross off two-way and I say mode, you know, slash, and I just say SWL or something. So, you know, it's not a two-way contact. Down at the bottom, the QSL please and thanks. In this case, Vit checked off please. So it's saying, please, he wants to have a card back. If he checked TNX for thanks, it meant he got the card and he's replying and he's thanking you for the card. So that's it on QSLing. I say, you know, old hat for most of us, but for some maybe new. So when you want to get your cards made and you go to the different QSL printers, you can look at a lot of their samples, and most of them, when they do their samples, their information blocks will have all these key elements. So how do you send these cards back and forth? You know, if you get done with a contest and you made 500 to 1,000 contacts, you're wondering, gee, do I have to send out all these cards? And if I had to send them all out and mail them, of course, that would be prohibitive. So the methods of sending the cards is either using a paper card or an electronic means. And if it's a paper card, you can send it direct. And if you're sending it direct to a DX station, you know, it costs you something like $1.30 for the stamp. And then you want to give them a self-addressed stamped envelope, a self-addressed envelope to send it back. But you can't put a stamp on there because you don't have a stamp for, you know, Bulgaria or something. So instead, what you do is you put in money to help them. And it's a thing called a green stamp. So you put in these things called green stamps, and that pays for sending the card back. And the green stamp is the US dollar. So that's just the universal currency when they're sending cards back and forth. So when you send the cards off to the ham in Bulgaria, you send it with a self-addressed envelope, and you throw in most cases, 3 green stamps or 3 US dollars. Generally, their cost in their countries is more to mail than our cost in the United States to mail out. So most of them, it's a little over $2. Go ahead.
I just want to interject one thing. If you're sending cash to certain countries, you might not want to put their call sign on the envelope.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you're sending the envelopes on that, don't put your return call sign up on the, you know, return address or their call sign. And when you put the return envelope in there, maybe put the money then in that return envelope or hide it in such a way so you can't see it, and try to have it laying flat so it's not folded, because then that becomes more obvious. There's a couple of places out there that sell these envelopes, and they're 2 envelopes, you know, with that little red and blue stripe things all around the edge, and one's a little bigger than the other. So one is small enough to fit in the other one. That can be your return envelope. When you stick that smaller one in the bigger one, put it in upside down. So when they take their little paper letter opener and they rip open the envelope, they don't rip both your return envelope and your envelope. Just a little hint. So you're right. So yeah, but you got to watch how you put the money in, and watch. There's a few countries that are not allowed to receive US currency. And at one time it was India, but I don't know if they're enforcing that. So just watch that. There's a few websites that talk about the suggested amount that you need to put in. At one time, sort of as before a lot of the controversy, if you wanted to send it to Iran, the return postage for Iran was $15 for them to mail out. And the guy said, I'm not ripping you off. That's just the way things work here. So you kind of have to check that site. If you're sending it direct, you know, by mailing it that way, what's really nice if they have a manager, and the manager's in the United States, because then you can just send it to the manager in the US and a return envelope with a US stamp on it. So it's real simple. And a lot of the DXpeditions might have a US manager. So that makes that easy. But sending out hundreds of cards, you know, a year gets very expensive, and that's why we have the Bureau. And the Bureau is a way to do this in bulk. So when I go through the Bureau, how it works, you'll see, but it becomes very, very inexpensive to send it by the Bureau. But the disadvantage is it can take about a year or so for the card to come back. But if you're on the air and you're on every year, year after year, and then slowly the cards start to trickle in from the Bureau. And if you're working to get your first 100, it's a easy way to do it. There's several ways to do confirmations electronically. The most popular is Logbook of the World from the ARRL. And that's using that method lets your contacts count for the ARRL, DXCC, worked all states. There's a WPX. There's several awards that LOTW lets you use. So what I do, for example, is I load everything up to LOTW. I use it all the time. And then those that don't, the DX doesn't use LOTW, then you have to do the paper card. When I'm operating in St. Pierre Miquelon, I operate through the night until 2 every morning, 2 or 3 in the morning. And at 2 in the morning, I upload every day to LOTW. And the next day I work the same stations, maybe on another band, and they say, hey, thanks for the LOTW. So it's, it really works good. It's nice. Another one you might see is called Club Log. That's a way to store your contacts. And related to Club Log is this thing called OQRS. And through that, you can go online, confirm your QSO information with that DX station, and then they will send you the card when you do that, and you pay for the card coming back, usually with PayPal, and it's usually $3 to $5 that you send with it. That covers the postage. So a lot of the big D expeditions will have OQRS afterwards, and it's a way to get your cards back. And the D expedition doesn't want your cards. Nothing personal, but they're, working tens of thousands of contacts, so they don't need Hampden County, Massachusetts, generally. So another popular one is EQSL, and then on QRZ.com, there's another one. So there's a bunch of them, but the EQSL and QRZ.com, those do not count for DXCC. So using these bureaus, it's a bulk way of sending the cards. 2 kinds of bureaus. There's the incoming bureau and the outgoing bureau. So the incoming bureau is where the cards come into you, and the outgoing bureau is where you send the cards to go out to the DX. So when they come into you, the DX stations send them to their bureaus, then they send them to us, and then we send them to you. For the outgoing bureau, you bulk up your cards and then send them. And if you're with the ARRL, you send them to the ARRL in Newington, and you pay a fee with that. It's not too bad, but it helps them defray the cost of their shipping all their boxes internationally. And one of the big issues around this is the international shipping costs have gone way, way up in the past couple of years. So just for those that are new, when I use the term DX, that's the stations that are outside the US. All of these bureaus are only for contacts that you make to DX stations and are not used for US to US contacts, because for those you can just send an SASE. So you don't really need that. Here's a picture of the outgoing bureau down in Newington. All of those cubby holes are the different countries, one for each country. And when you send them down there, they unload your box, and then they flip them into all those cubby holes. And when you send them, you sort them by country or prefix, so it's easy for them. If you're not a ARRL member, there's a couple of services that you can use. One of them's with K3FN. He might be the one you can buy those envelopes from. I don't remember where I bought my envelopes the last time, but he's got a bunch of other services. There's a couple of people that were selling the DX stamps. So if you wanted to send, say, to England, you could put the British stamp on it, for the return. I gave up on trying that a long time ago because the rates keep changing. It's hard to keep up with it. So for the incoming bureau, for us, we're the one for the W1 area. So if anybody's call has a 1 in it, then we handle it. And each of the call areas then has a bureau. The W4 has 2 of them. One of them's for single letter prefixes like a W4, K4, N4. And the other bureau is for 2-letter prefixes like WA4. And I don't know how they keep that straight and why they do it, but that's what they do. So that's that'll be interesting to see. I would think that they would just merge the operation. Many of them, and you probably heard about in the past, is where you just send in envelopes to the bureau, maybe with stamps on it and your call written on it, and they will send you the cards. Some of them now you buy credits for those envelopes, etc. The way we operate and what we've done for about over 20 years now is we just have you send us money to cover the postage, but just any amount you want. And then when we send you the cards, we just deduct from your account the actual postage and then an overhead charge just to cover the envelope and materials. That overhead charge is 10 cents plus 10 cents an ounce. So just for a 1 ounce package, we would charge overhead of just 20 cents. Like a 3 ounce would be 40 cents, et cetera, up to 10 ounces. And after that, we hold it fixed because we're using boxes that we get from the post office free anyway at that point. So we do that. It's much simpler, much easier. If you get cards and we want to be able to send you those in big boxes, we can just do it. We're not trying to keep stuffing them into envelopes. And there's some people, that get, 12 ounces, 16 ounces of cards at a time. So that works out good. Here's our organization. Again, we're all volunteers. We're independent of the ARRL and the way we operate, but we operate under the jurisdiction, under the rules of the ARRL for bureaus. We have 2 managers, co-managers, Dennis and myself, and that's part of redundancy. So if either one of us are away, the other can pick it up. Dennis travels a lot, the expeditions all over. Dennis handles the letter sorter team. Those are the sorters for each of the first letter of the suffix. So there's 26 letters. A few people do multiple letters. And then I manage the administration and the pre-sorting. That's preparing the cards. I'll show that in a bit. And of course, we've got a little bit of IT, and those are our IT folks. So the way it works, the countries, the DX bureaus, they accumulate cards from their hams in their country and they get a big box together, and then they mail it to us at our PO box in Marlborough. Those boxes come in, we pre-screen them, we get them bundled, cleaned up, clear out the ones that are missort. Sometimes I get a bunch of cards in and they're really meant to be for W2 or something, and we get those out of the system. And they go to the pre-sorters and they sort it to the first letter of the suffix. And then the letter sorters sort them out to the individual hams and then mail them out. So here are the cards coming in. This is back when I used to only pick it up once a week. And that's about 110 pounds of cards coming in from the post office.
Whoa.
The big box in the middle is typical one from Germany. They just send tons of cards and they're all wrapped up. That's 25 pounds, that box. The mail bag on the left, that brown bag, is from Japan, comes in a bag. So when it bursts open, at least it bursts open in the bag. And the one in the front is the Netherlands. So, they're just different countries coming in, different shapes and sizes. When you open up the box, they're not necessarily all nice and neat. So then we get them cleaned up and bundled up so they're neat. And then they go out to the pre-sorters. And the pre-sorters are many area hams that do it. And what I like to do is go out to clubs, and we just at a club meeting do pre-sorting. And here are some of the recent ones we've done. Obviously with COVID, that's been restricted. in the past 2 years, it's just been the Algonquin and Nashua Club, Neshoba Club rather. And even 2020, we didn't do anything in 2020. And they do about 7,000 cards a month. And when they're pre-sorting, they're just getting into the first letter of the suffix. So you can see the examples here. Just to get those cards broken up into 26 batches. Here they are at Neshoba Club on the right, putting them into bins, and on the left, taking those bundles and stacking them up and by letter. Here we are at the Marlboro Algonquin Club at our emergency operating center doing pre-sorting. Once they're pre-sorted, then they go out to the letter sorters, and Jeff and John here in the Hampden Club are the letter sorters, so they will get these boxes about 3 times a year, and they will then sort those cards out, usually maybe by the second letter of the suffix or the last letter. It's up to them, but it's just to get them into a pattern, into amounts that's easy for them to then pull out the actual hams. So here they are, with their sorting bin, and then they get them into the individual hams, and then they put them in the envelopes that you see. And they have a program, and that program lets them deduct the postage, prints the label, track the address. And one of the big challenges is people are constantly changing calls and they're getting reissued. So we have to keep track of that, especially cards come in for a certain date of a QSO. We have to know which was the holder of that card, of that call at that time, and send it to them. Here's our volumes. So back in the 2012 to 2014, well, 2013 or so, 191,000, 161,000 cards a year, and then it dropped off. But 2014 to say about 2016, those totals you can deduct by the amounts you see for W1AW. For those who remember, W1AW had a centennial, and they did something like 3 million contacts, and they QSL'd 100% out, and then the cards were coming in. So those cards were just for W1AW. So if you subtract that, you'll see from 2013 down to 2017, 18, it really is a constant decline going down. Some of that is then the sunspot cycle started to wane, but the other is Logbook of the World became more popular, and also the international shipping costs started to go up, and it was harder for the bureaus to send to us. But around 2018 to 2019, you start to see the uptick, and it actually would go up a lot more without COVID. And that's a lot of FT8 contacts showing up. So the volumes are going up again. 2020 is just very low because from March 2020 to July 2020, everything was shut down. So we just didn't get cards. And the other problem is the international QSL bureaus rely on volunteers to get together and prepare those shipments, and they can't meet, because of COVID restrictions in the countries. So, but it's going up. I mean, I can see it's going up because the countries that are able to ship, their volumes are back up. So here's our webpage. If you go to w1qsl.org, and then on the upper right on the web page, your account is where you can go in and set up your account or update your account or make a payment. So to set it up, you go there, and there's a web form. You can update your address, etc. Or you can just send it to our PO box. And if it's a check, make it out to W1 QSL Bureau. Many people just send in cash and set up or replenish their account. And any questions or information updates and all, you can just email us as well. One important thing is if you have multiple accounts, multiple call signs, it's important that these are separate accounts, because your cards are going to go out to the bureau's sorter for each letter. So your cards for one call are going to go to one sorter and calls for the other. So they have to handle them as separate accounts. The only exception that's reasonably easy for us if both of your calls have the same first letter of the suffix, because then the
Eric,
sorter could just have a note.
Question,
Go ahead, sure.
how long do you guys hold on to the cards if nobody sends in money or acknowledges?
So when we get a couple of cards in, then we send out a notify to them, postcard or sometimes by email. And then a few months later or so, we send a second notify. And then if we don't receive anything in, I have to look up the number, but it's like 3 months, then we pitch them. So we don't hold them, and because we just can't hold, some people just don't respond and don't want them, and we would just start to build up huge piles of them. So generally, you know, a few months afterwards, many of the sorters will hold on to them for a lot longer, but you know, don't count on it. We just we will pitch them.
Sounds good.
Okay. Here's the form on the web page, so you can just check the boxes that you're going to do. Put the information in, the date the call is issued, or just the year or all. That helps us, because if it's a reissue of a call, that helps us know when to start sending cards for, you know, what date QSOs to send to you. We also have tools where we can look in the FCC databases and check that, but this helps us. And if you had a previous call sign, it's good to put that in, because a lot of times I'll see that, then I'll go look at the previous call sign and say, oh, you already have an account there. Maybe we keep 2 accounts going, transfer money from one to the other, close the old account. It kind of depends on the activity. And then if you're going to pay money to your account, you put the PayPal amount, and then this will go into PayPal. When you spend $10 by PayPal, PayPal takes a fee. Your $10 becomes $9.16. We only credit you the $19.16 because that's all we really get. But it's the convenience of it. And how much to send? I mean, if you're just starting out, recommend sending in $5. It's simple, and then that way you get a shipment of, you know, of a couple of cards or all. That's 78 cents. So you're good for many shipments. The 78 cents is the 58-cent stamp, and as I say, we charge 10 cents plus 10 cents an ounce. So for the first one, it'll be 20 cents, and then the next, you know, second ounce will be 30 cents, up to a maximum of $1.10. And with that, in our thing, we just about break even, you know, for the expenses. You'll have a sticker or a slip in the envelope, and it'll give you your balance. You can also go on the web and check your balance. With the exception of 2 letters, there's 2 sort letters that don't use the database system. We have the letter F and the letter X. So those you just have to ask, you know, send an email and I'll get you the balance. If your account gets down to about $2 or so, it's good to send in money again. And if you're really active or a contester and you're getting lots of cards, you may want to be sending in more. Some people shipments are the flat rate priority box, so that, you know, with the you know, with handling charges is $10 right there roughly. And some people get you know, get one of those every you know, every 4 months. Okay. And then here's our contacts. And again, if you just go to the web, everything's there. Both Dennis and I are on our emails there, or also our calls at awrl.net. Okay, so that I do, yeah, about half an hour or so.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Good. Any questions or? comments or things that I can help with?
I do want to make a statement for HCRA though. We do have our own QSL. I wouldn't say a bureau, but it piggybacks off the ARRL. So if any club member that is also an ARRL member, if they want to save on some postage, they can give their outgoing QSL cards, I should say for the Outgoing Bureau, to Paul, NF1G. He will collect the cards. And I think you might have to provide them with proof of membership for ARRL. I forgot the rules that we established.
I believe so.
Yeah, generally that's it, but yeah.
Yep. And so what that does for you, what the club is actually doing is absorbing the shipping costs. So Hampden County is absorbing the shipping costs. That way we pool them together. So there is a nice little service for HCRA members as well. That benefits you by being a member of HCRA. And the second thing I want to add is that we used to be the QSL Bureau way back in the day.
Right.
Yeah. So we were, I think we were the first ones doing it.
Back in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty interesting. I learned that reading through old zero beats. But all right, I just wanted to throw those two things out there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Springfield was the address for a long, long time. Yeah. And then it went to Milford and then up to Marlboro.
And I think
When you're pooling your cards as the club and then you're going to send them to the league, the real nice thing about that service too is if you just have a couple cards, you can go put them in there, and then you don't have to deal with sort of that minimum first flat fee that you have to pay for. So
yeah, it's I mean, dues in the club are only $15. So if you send out DX cards a couple times a year, that's one of the perks. And not that you're sending out $15 for the cards, but if you happen to have a lot of cards eventually, it's definitely a bonus to being a member and all. I know we've got some of our new hams. Jackie, did you, if you are on DX, have you changed your address with the QSL Bureau? And you're muted. You got to unmute.
No, I have not. Making a note of it right now.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you must have cards. Well, now with W1 calls all over the place. I know there's a couple of contesters in Texas and California that I hear in all the contests that are one stations too. So.
Oh yeah. No, and it is a little interesting. A lot of the 1x2s and 2x1 calls, get gobbled up by people outside the area. so we're going, how'd they get that call?
I'm sorry.
I notice a lot of my shipments are going outside of the one region when I do my sorts.
Yeah. On a QSL card, shouldn't you have put via on there too in case it's or is that only
if you're sending the card out, mailing it out, then you're going to send it to the manager or the person, so you don't have to worry about the via. But if you're sending the card out via the bureau, if that person, when you look them up on QRZ, says send your card, here's cards here, then yes, then you write on it via
whoever the
G4 ABC, and then then they'll know when they're sorting the card to put it through that route. Absolutely. Yeah.
Jürgen, sorry.
Eric, how do those superstation handle their QSL cards like K1 Triple T or KC1XX? I mean, they must get tons of cards.
Yes. Well, for TTT, they get a ton of cards. The K1P special event, because any 1x1 cards that come in, I handle them separately because they usually have the wrong thing written on them because they don't have the right dates to look up. But TTT, when the K1P for Peru's something anniversary, got a bazillion cards just now. But fortunately, the sorter for T also operates at the station, so he just brings the cards there.
Yeah. For example, I have K1KP, and he's a Tom Fernay. I mean, not K1. K1KI.
Yeah.
And he's a big time contester just out of Suffield, and he gets so many cards to the point where I just drive him to his house. I go by his house all the time, so I just tell Tom, "Hey, I give him a warning. I'm coming on over. So if you see me, don't freak out. And I just leave a bag in his door because he gets quite a bit of cards. He gets about a pound or so of cards a quarter or a third of the year.
He also got, when we had the WRTC 2014, which for those new is the sort of the Olympics that we held here. He was the QSL manager for all of those. So he got all those cards as well. Not that he was going to do anything with them because they QSL'd out already 100%, but people reply. So, yeah.
So when I helped, well, I managed the WBZ special event station, which was for call signs.
You got some cards coming then.
Oh, all right. I was curious how that all worked.
Yeah,
So-
no, I remember looking them up because, each one that comes in with a 1x1, I check. I actually have a little chart for the dates for each one. And there was a couple of them that were for WBZ. It must have been the letters W, B, and Z. I don't remember, but anyway.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I was just curious because I'd never dawned on me to put any money out there for those call signs, but then it's only for certain.
No, but you
how that
wouldn't.
works.
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it for the 1x1.
Okay.
You do it for the manager of the 1x1 because the 1x1 rotates. I mean, you only had it for say for 2 weeks, and then that same call is used again for somebody else, and then again and again.
Yeah.
There's no way to manage that. So we manage that kind of a special handling and make sure it goes to the right person.
Yeah, because I
Eric.
also do 13 colonies K2H for Massachusetts, but there's only a few of those that have trickled in the past couple of years.
Yep. But those,
Eric,
same thing. Go ahead.
Do you know why you get so many cards from Germany?
Because they have that automatic system and they got some special thing for club members.
Actually, yes, because the distribution of your QSL cards is part of your annual membership fee.
Yeah.
And about I would say probably 80 to 90% of all German hams are part of the DIAC. That's why.
Yeah. But then if you're not a member of the DRAC and they get the card in there, they send them all back because I got a ton of them back that
Yes.
they say not a member. Yeah.
That's right.
And now in the German boxes, I also see Sweden. Liechtenstein. I don't know. I see a couple other countries. I think they may be piggybacking on their shipping of the boxes, but their box comes in, it's 25 pounds. It's in the box. Then it's got the wrapping around, the binding around it in all three planes directions. Then it's wrapped in burlap, fiberglass burlap kind of, and then it's wrapped around again. And I get one every 3 weeks lately.
Post office thinks you're doing drug shipments or
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't. Oh, I pitched it. I have one. It just came in. It says Border Security Drug Enforcement Unit inspected or something like that. They opened up the whole box and stuff and went through and it was all the cards and then they taped it up and said, with the inspection stickers on it.
That's pretty
Some
funny.
show on the Weather Channel or something where they talk about border testing and the guy goes, "It's cocaine," every time they test positive. So
Oh my goodness.
anyway, yeah, it's interesting stuff comes in.
Cool.
The other thing is sometimes they're not done as well as the Germans and the boxes open up. I've gotten 2 boxes in a row from Italy and I forget the numbers in pounds and kilos. It was 20 kilos. And the only thing that I got was about 3 kilos left.
Ooh.
Okay. So somewhere spread out in some mail room somewhere are bazillion QSL cards.
Oh.
It's too bad. And I write to them and I've twice written them and told them, they're not packed right. Nothing we can do.
Jackie, you have another question?
Yeah, Larry. So you befuddled me a little bit by asking me if I had changed my address with a W1 QSL. I never sent cards through the Bureau. So
what about
why would
receiving
I
cards?
change my address?
It's not so much for sending, it's for receiving cards.
I can check, Jackie, your call. What's your call?
Kilo 1 Delta Delta Alpha. And it's doubtful that I'm going to receive many calls. I haven't been on the radio in a year and a half now because I've moved.
We keep cards for a long time.
But I don't have an account set up for you. I don't see an account for you, Jackie.
Does she have any cards waiting?
Yeah, I never
No.
had an account.
Yeah.
No, so no account. Yeah. No.
Well, if you talk to DX, Jackie, and you're hoping to get a card, or you ask them to send you a card, that's when you
Right.
want to, but it probably can't hurt. Just send them $10, and if something
Yep.
comes in, they'll just pull from it and all.
Yep. Now I
That
get it.
reminds me, I have to change my address.
Okay. I can, well, you know it's wrong. Let me pull you up here and we'll see what.
Is it updated with the FCC, Jurgen?
Oh, yes.
Okay, then he'll be able to get it.
Well,
Did you do
the
that
fir-
too,
well,
Jackie,
not-
with the FCC?
Not,
Oh,
not,
yeah.
not necessarily. We don't automatically look it up with the FCC because we don't know. We had a little thing in our program that would do the automatic update, and that was a problem because a lot of people haven't updated their FCC and they moved. And then we have their new address, then we do the update, we set it back to their old address. Some people want their cards only to go to a certain place and not where they have it listed with the FCC and all. So I get back on every time we have a mailing, I get maybe 20 to 30 envelopes back with the addresses not forwarded. And, that takes a lot of work to redo. So Jurgen, we have you in Southwick on
Oh,
Winfield Circle.
yeah, that was automatic updated then.
No, well,
Automatically.
I wasn't implying we get automatic. I was saying since you both are in the room, he could just pull your information from the FCC.
Well, we updated it on January 26th of this year.
Yeah, that's about, I think I updated it with the FCC in December.
Well, you know what, I deal with so many, Jurgen, I just might have noticed maybe in some correspondence you wrote or something about moving.
Okay.
Whenever I sort of hear rumors about that, I go and I check and then I send it. So I probably sent something, but I do a couple a day, 365 days a year, so I don't remember yours particular, but
Okay,
but
thank
January
you.
26th, you're all set.
Thank you.
24 Winfield Circle. Yep.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions or comments, or anybody else doing DX other than a few of us here? It's fun getting DX cards. I only get like, a small packet, small envelope at a time, but it's a lot of fun. It's great to get them and all.
Larry, I don't think I knew that so many people across the pond used this bureau. I don't think I understood that till tonight,
Okay,
which is
well,
why
yeah.
I never bothered setting up an account.
it's worth setting
Hmm.
up, and
Okay,
it doesn't matter whether you've been a ham for a week or for 40 years. There's something to be learned, and especially if
Oh,
you like
yeah.
getting cards.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Just send them $5. Just send them $5 to open an account.
Yeah, just $5 and
Yeah.
but
a
I'll do-
$5 bill works fine. Doesn't matter. It's just as easy.
glad you're so informal.
all right.
Can I just drop it off at Jeff's house now that I know his identity?
Nope. Go straight to the bureau.
Either Ann or Vanessa had a question, but I don't know which one.
It was
I
Vanessa.
did. This is Ann. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you now.
Okay, I have to get really close to this weird microphone I just got. Yes, I really like the QSL Bureau. I just wanted to say in 2014, I was toying with getting my first license, KC1CRS, and it was QSL cards that pushed me over the edge at the 100th anniversary. So just so you know, I really appreciate anybody who's helping with that QSL exchange. And I'm really bad at always sending them back really fast, but I do like it. And I had one question for Jeff and whoever. If Keith and I use the HCRA to send some of ours, can we put them all in the same from KU1 and KC1CRS and N1YL?
Well, yeah, what I would do is contact Paul beforehand. That way he can get you an address. And I know sometimes Paul will drive around, but I don't think he'll drive up to Greenfield. So you can get his address from him, or hopefully someday we'll have in-person meetings again, and then you can bring them down for those, stuff like that. I mean,
And Keith also has some cards that he didn't respond to 8 years ago, maybe. It's not too late to do
Nope.
that, is it?
No.
I still see I still see cards from 2008, 2007 come across my desk
Right, right. I
during my
have,
sorts.
yeah, I've gotten, a lot of the ones I've gotten are really old ones. It's amazing how few I've gotten for N1YL compared to KC1CRS. I guess people like that call sign better. So thanks so much.
And Ann, your account's in good shape. I just checked. So,
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
But
Okay.
and contact Paul, it's that way you can get the sorting the way he wants it sorted coming into you. Most likely you'll sort by your call sign, then his call sign, then by the prefix in
Okay.
alphabetical order.
Because one of these days we will do a big QSL sending out day.
Yeah, Paul,
Thanks
Paul,
so much.
Paul lives in Leeds and he's NF1G, and
Thank you very much for that info. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
okay, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Eric, thank you very much for joining us. It was very informative, very interesting too. And I've been a ham for 45 years and I still get a big thrill when I open up the envelope and pull out the QSL cards.
good. Yeah.
It's a lot more exciting than seeing them,
Yeah.
incoming on Logbook of the World, what's been approved. It's not quite the same thrill
Not
as
the
opening
same.
it up,
Yeah. Good, good.
but it is a lot of fun.
It's fun. Good.
Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us again tonight. And Eric, thank you for coming out. And don't be alarmed by a small group, because I know I get emails. I'll get probably half a dozen emails tomorrow. When is this going to be posted on the website by people that can't make the meetings and they watch the meeting afterwards on the video and all. But we appreciate it very much. And hopefully, as new hams come in, we'll start directing them towards the video, and you'll get more new hams, especially when they get on HF and making contacts, which it's hard not to do when the sunspot cycle is better to get those new cards in.
Vanessa has,
Great presentation.
thanks. Vanessa has a question.
Just a comment, the posting on the website, it will probably be done, depending when I get the video from Larry, it will be probably done by Sunday, because usually they take a long time for me to download and upload.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a long time. So by Sunday, I hope, at the latest.
Okay, well, Ed, I'm not pressuring you in any way. I'm just saying, and I don't know what I would do if I didn't have a Dropbox account where I can share the file, because the files can be pretty darn huge for the videos. But you're doing a great job getting everything out there, and I know people are appreciating watching the video. So, anyways, Eric, thank you again. I'm sure we'll see you at the Ham Expo and maybe up at Nearfest or something, and we'll listen
I'll
for
be
you.
at Deerfest, and we'll have a booth at the Ham Expo. Yes.
Cool.
Good.
And we'll listen for you for I forget where it was you were, but
FP Fox Papa. Yeah.
sounds good. Everybody have a good evening and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night.